Hey guys, welcome back to the Friday Vlog, where we discuss activity that goes on here with the BuzWeaver channel. That includes things like current events, headlines that are in the news, social media, pop culture, technology, and items of interest that come up during the week that allow us to have a little bit of a dialogue. If this is your first time here to the channel, welcome. If you are a returning viewer and or a subscriber, I want to thank all of you guys for your continued support.
All right, guys, so we have a little bit of a correction change for this particular Friday because events were unfolding during the week that I definitely wanted to bring up to you. This article from The Verge: YouTube has removed Steven Crowder from its partner program indefinitely. He'll be back in a week, but without YouTube ad revenue. So 2 weeks ago, after YouTube revealed its definition of hate speech was so narrow that it couldn't remove a wildly racist tirade for being wildly racist, we wonder out loud what it would take for YouTube to stop promoting conservative commentator Steven Crowder as an official YouTube partner and allowing him to profit for those tirades. Today, we have a partial answer. YouTube has officially suspended Steven Crowder's main channel from the YouTube partner program indefinitely, which includes removing his ability to run ads. So by no means do I encourage or suggest you guys check this this article out from The Verge. Of course, I may just start using archived links only so that these individuals that write these types of articles, as we saw during all of 2016 all the way through to 2020, this is what many of those in the big tech industry, and these are the individuals that we're talking about. We're talking about mainstream media, of course. We can always think of the bigger channels, the 24/7 news cycles, but these are the articles that were written almost constantly about President Trump, and now, of course, they're going after Steven Crowder. This is still very fluid. I'm not surprised that they have removed like all of his ads because, of course, with cancel culture, if they see an ad on a particular video being played, they will go after the advertiser. So it isn't always YouTube in and of themselves. It is oftentimes cancel culture and outrage mobs. Ladies and gentlemen, how did we get to this point? How did we get to this point in our country where cancel culture, these particular individuals aren't really individuals that are out there in the everyday type environment in activism like we see with protesters and stuff? That's one thing, but they have reached such a high level within all of these industries, and they spend their entire day on social media just finding reasons to go after individual people. For example, like Chandler Crump, who says this week that he was completely deplatformed from YouTube. And so now he's going to alternative tech. Many of those alternative techs, as I mentioned, are linked below this video. So please avail yourself to my social media and alternative tech. Now, people on alternative tech often ask me, why am I still on YouTube? Why am I still on the mainstream? That's because of these particular reasons with Chandler and with Steven, is because people need to see that there are conservative voices. They need to see a conservative message. And if we just leave these platforms, they'll be in a complete echo chamber and never have access or knowledge or be able to have the proverbial red pill that everyone talks about, because we'll be off there. That's why I say support me on YouTube. And these guys often on alternative tech say, why am I still on YouTube? I'm still on YouTube because we need to have some form or some way to access these individuals. They need to come across the content to see that there is an opposing view. There is a rational, cogent thought taking place here. I was trying to think of too many words at the same time. So they need to have a place to go and check out the content. And of course, here we have it from Reclaim the Net. Amazon, Facebook, Google, Twitter, and more partner with coalition to promote tech's progressive future. So, as we talked about for the last 4 years, or we discussed about 4 years and covered here on the channel for the last 3 years, Democrats, working alongside the mainstream media and tech giants, along with special interest, and of course Trump detractors, did everything they could to convince people to hate Trump as much as they did. So, a Democrat tech policy activist has launched a tech policy industry coalition focused on promoting technology's progressive future across the political spectrum. tech companies, especially big tech companies, have come under fire for abusing their power. They have come under fire for abusing their power, but because they are selectively abusing that power, as we see with Steven Crowder and with Chandler, they are selectively finding people to go after. They are trying to take down conservative voices. And fortunately, maybe for me, because my channel is so small right now, I'm just kind of a tiny little dot on the radar. No ripples, not making too much noise. And this is why, guys, I kind of stick to regular, typical media to cover and then voice my opinion. Because, of course, if I were to go kind of on my own, very similar to what Steven has done, what Chandler does, and some other groups of individuals, then, of course, they're going to be more under scrutiny. I would rather just expose the progressives, the activists, the counterculture types who are getting involved in all of this, and just talk about them so people can be aware of it, because, you know, my information will be sourced. You can see it here on the screen. You can see it here on the channel. So I'm not trying to come up with my own particular content that they can come after and say that I'm rabble-rousing conservatism or whatever. There's something I wanted to share here on Chandler's Twitter. I can't confirm any of this, but I thought this was interesting. Something to the effect of, I saw on Laura Trump's Instagram account that she will be hosting an interview with President Trump tonight. That did happen. Just a reminder that content posted on Facebook and Instagram in the voice of President Trump is not currently allowed. And our platforms, including new posts with President Trump speaking, and will be removed if posted, resulting in additional limitations on accounts that posted it. Now, I don't know who this Caitlin person is. I've not seen any additional information on it. This could be just maybe, again, I'm not gonna elaborate on it. I don't know. It's just interesting to see. That's why I kind of did a little bit of research and came across this particular ad or this particular article from Reclaim the Net, but I've not been able to verify that in particular. But some of the coverage that I did want to go over with you today, I've changed because I want to go over what we just covered now. But Biden condemns Georgia's new voting restrictions as an atrocity like Jim Crow laws. And I wanted to point out that while Joe Biden is rabble-rousing about the fact that we're trying to secure our elections here in Georgia, because as you know, we've talked about Molly Ball's article from Time Magazine quite often here on the channel about how a coordinated effort was put together, a cabal, as she says, to fortify the election for a desired outcome. So protecting the integrity of our election is incredibly important, especially here in Georgia, where it was very much taken advantage of because Georgia was a huge player in this election. Huge player in this election. But as you can see here, Biden is all upset about the fact that they are requiring ID for verification and to secure our elections here in Georgia to maintain the integrity of our election. The integrity that for 4 years the Democrats kept saying they were concerned about. So I pointed out and added this little section from the CDC here at the bottom with a red arrow that says, at your vaccination appointment, before you arrive, contact a site where you will be vaccinated or review your appointment confirmation emails for details about what identification and proof of eligibility you may need to bring to your vaccination appointment. So you need ID to get the vaccination, to get the Vax card, or what I call the tyranny card, because now they're trying to suggest that businesses and industry, which is what the government and the establishment is trying to do now, is require that individuals have a vaccination card to be able to conduct business. For example, to go to concerts, to go on an aircraft, and where you're going to be with groups of people. But of course, we've already seen at the airport they have these social distancing, and then everybody gets on the plane and they're all packed together. So it's absolutely absurd. But the idea that requiring an ID for verification to maintain the integrity of our elections is associated or similar to Jim Crow laws is absolutely ridiculous. Can people not see? Can people not make a simple distinction right here, as I'm trying to make this distinction here with vaccinations and having a vaccination card? You have to have ID. I just did my taxes, and completing my taxes and being able to get the stimulus required that I have my ID. Not only did it require that I have my ID, they needed my identification number off of my ID to be able to process my stimulus and so forth. So here we have Keisha Bottoms, the mayor of Atlanta, who says, I still close my eyes like I'm 7 years old. I have no objections. I have no particular issues with Keisha Bottoms. Yeah, she's definitely an outlier when it comes to being a Democrat. But nonetheless, I can assure you, see that paperwork in front of her right here? She had to present ID. Even though they know she's the mayor, they still probably had to ask her for ID and proof of age. So here's another individual. She's not spoken out too much about it in and of herself, but if the opportunity presents itself, she probably will. But I just found it very interesting that this week we're seeing a huge push against conservatives on social media. So thank you guys so very much for the likes, the shares, and the comments. All that engagement helps the channel. And as we see here with Steven Crowder, Steven's still trying to work through this right now. I don't always agree with what Steven does. He can be very cringy at times, even for me as a conservative. The way he approaches his comedy and his skits and stuff isn't necessarily the way I would do it. But hey, Steven can present his content however he wants to do it. Of course, also with Chandler. And then, of course, the double standard that just is so glaring. I don't understand why people can't see stuff like this, where on the one hand, Biden is saying that having ID is so incredibly racist, while on the other hand, he wants everyone to get the vaccination, as well as having vax cards to do business. I mean, think about how exclusionary that is. So if you want to get on a plane, or if you, for an emergency, you got to go somewhere in an emergency, or if you go to a particular business where there's lots of people together and you have to conduct business there, if you don't have your vax card, you're not flying. You're not going to that business. They're not going to allow you to go in that business, I guess. I'm not sure how it's going to be enforced, because there's no laws against wearing a mask, and there's no laws about having a vax card. There isn't any laws, and that's just it. See, they use peer pressure to get their point across when they can't mandate a law. They use peer pressure. So you say, oh, you don't have your card. Oh my gosh, why don't you have your card? You should be able to have a card to be able to do this, that, and the other. But nonetheless, we can see here, here's Keisha Bottoms probably having to present her ID to be able to get her vaccination. My parents have gotten their vaccination because they're seniors, and they said they had to present their ID. At least they had to present their ID, they said, when they got their initial vaccination. They didn't necessarily have to have it, I don't think, on their second vaccination. But nonetheless, guys, this is what I wanted to cover for this week. So by all means, thank you again for supporting the channel. Be sure you slap that like down and continue your support of the channel.
All right, guys, so that's going to wrap it up for this Friday vlog. Thank you so much for the likes, the shares, and the comments. Your engagement here on the channel is greatly appreciated. And below this video, of course, you can find the various social medias that I belong to. That would be the standard mainstream social media as well as alternative tech. So avail yourselves to that content below this video. And if you're here on YouTube, that would be the channel icon appearing right there on the screen to subscribe, along with notifications. That way you'll know when there's content here on the channel, as well as the Friday vlog. And I'll see you guys right there behind that camera next week.